Perfect. So, welcome everybody. Also, welcome from my side, from the Performance Days team. My name is Anna Schuster. I support the team in the sustainability topics. So, I focus on the circular solutions, on the next gen materials, and I have the pleasure to host this conversation today with Andrea, Senior Vice President of Innovation and Technology from PrimaLoft. And we have a very hot topic at the moment. So we talk about textile to textile recycling. Textile to textile recycling, as you can see, I think on multiple banners and also on the magazines that you find everywhere in the halls. We talk about the role of recyclers. So textile to textile recycling is where we really want to deep dive and what is the focus on our conversation. So, Andrea, also very warm welcome.
Thank you.
It's fantastic to have you here.
Thank you.
And I would love to hear more about yourself, about your background and the role of yourself in PrimaLoft.
Wonderful. Thank you. Humbly, thank you very much. And it's very good to be here. I want to keep this brief because I think who I am is less important than what we have to talk about. But humbly, thank you again. So my role at PrimaLoft, just a slight comment. PrimaLoft is how we pronounce it. PrimaLoft is also acceptable, but I tend to work for brands that are hard to pronounce. So
my Germanness is coming through.
My role at PrimaLoft is really to support the materials engineering, the manufacturing and commercialization teams, and the advanced concepts teams, obviously. But my background is actually 20 plus years on the consumer branded side, as well as the past year and change with an ingredient brand. And I have functional experience in materials science, in manufacturing innovation, in human performance, and product testing. Now, this is somewhat interesting and perhaps atypical from a person in my position at an insulation provider, is to have a background and have an education not in textile or material science. My background is in exercise physiology, kinesiology. And like I said, that is somewhat atypical for my position, but why it's important as it relates to an ingredient brand is I think it's so important that we understand how the product interfaces in end garment use with the end user. And I think we probably won't talk about this much today, but I use it to kind of ground perspective. We should not be talking about thermodynamics without being able to speak to thermophysiology. So I think it's an important thing when we talk about insulation. Quickly around sustainability, my CEO, Ann Cavassa, my leadership team, peers, and myself, we are the de facto heads of sustainability at PrimaLoft. We do not have a separate lead for sustainability. Sure, we have ESG, we have compliance and certification, scope, all the people working on those things. But we do that intentionally and do not have an isolated lead because we think you should eliminate that internal conflict between product and margin. And if the product isn't sustainable, it shouldn't get made, and it doesn't get made. So I like to look at it as innovation through sustainability and not the other way around. So again, I want to call those things out in terms of my role to focus on, and probably the most important parts before we start this conversation. So
thank you so much. Yeah, I definitely agree with you that we have to have sustainable innovation.
Right.
And this is also why we're here today. And you have a very exciting innovation sharing with us. So, but let's start with the bigger picture before we dive into the technology, because we have the expert with you right on stage. Could you give us an overview of the Rerun technology platform and how it represents the next steps for PrimaLoft and also the journey towards circularity?
Of course. I think to start this conversation, I should maybe reframe the conversation around our role as an ingredient brand. You know this, and I'm assuming that many of you do, but in ingredient brand, PrimaLoft does not make our own garments. We are a provider of insulation, obviously, but we don't provide our own garment. I just said that, but we don't provide our own. We provide the materials to over 1,000 of our brand partners, and we don't inventory that product. So it's made on demand for at the time of order. And if the product is going to be made, it's our responsibility to ensure that it's made using the best materials available, the best processes, the best practices. So I think sometimes that means that sometimes that means that the brands are asking us to solve a problem for them. They come to us with their needs and their wants, and we work on delivering that. But sometimes we have to have those products ready and in the wait before they're actually able to enable them. We have to. I look at it as as a component piece. We're in this unique position to help usher them and toward their journeys toward circulation. But that means we have to not only be ahead of the curve, it kind of means we have to set the curve. And it means we have to be very democratic. And in terms of T2T, it basically means we have to have a ton of options. Yeah. So as we talk about our rerun platform, and that is our T2T technology platform, it's really the start of the conversation. And our intent is to break that linear mold of consumption and use waste. But we're going to start with 2 separate closed loop products called under our rerun platform. And I can get into them as we sort of go into T2T. But I know I'm saying we need to start and we need to enable, but we only have 2 products. It seems a little contradictory. But within those 2 closed loop products, there are other avenues and there are more options within them that I'd like to, I think, explain as we get into what is T2T. But
I liked that you said brands are coming to you to get inspired and to look for solutions. Yeah. Because as an ingredient brand, yes, you are ahead of the trend and you inspire the brands to make their product then also more circular. Yeah. But yeah, what about T2T? Because not everybody's so deep into the technical processes. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about chemical, mechanical, and maybe hybrid processes.
Of course. Yeah. I think everyone here probably has a strong understanding of T2T, textile to textile recycling. So I'm going to use our 2 products sort of as exemplars to talk through. If you do not know about T2T, well, you're in the right place. But also, if you walk across to the other exhibit hall, Anna and her team have done an absolutely amazing job of putting together a banner right in the middle that walks you through everything. I mean, it is incredibly comprehensive in terms of the different steps along the way and a lot of the concepts we're actually going to get into today. So I thank you for that. Go check it out. Free plug. But for the sake of our conversation and the different manufacturings for T2T, there are a bunch of them. But the main ones are mechanical, thermomechanical, there's chemical, and I often say regenerative. It's synonymous. It's an English thing. When I say regenerative, it is the same thing as chemical. It is just a technicality around some of the language, and people like to use regenerative as a description for it. And then there's enzymatic and hybrid. So okay, I just ran through them, but we don't have time to go really deep into each of these. But what I like to do in my mind's eye is bucket them into 3 separate buckets. Your first bucket is the thermomechanical and mechanical. And really that's coming down to heat and pressure. You're shredding things up and you're melting them down to reprocess them. The second bucket is that chemical regenerative recycling. This is all about depolymerization, repolymerization. It's also very heavy into polyester and cotton poly blends. That's where I would say most of the main focus to date has been and the work around it. But what I do want to call out on the regenerative recycling is that it requires, in the closed loop process, it requires reactors. And it requires these reactors to be built and set up and propped up. And it's almost as important that they're being built as where they are being built. That's going to come into a lot of the conversation later around scaling and the future of things. And also, yes, it exists. These are things that are out in the open. We're talking about them today, but they're still very early. And as we get into some of the scaling problems, I think that also comes back around. That third bucket is enzymatic. Enzymatic is for blended textiles, a lot of natural and protein-based fibers. The headline here is about material separation and purification and filtration. So hybrid recycling, which I mentioned before, that's a combination of all three buckets. So again, I like it. It's just neat and easy to separate for your mind to filter through. PrimaLoft, focusing on our product, is using both mechanical and the regenerative, the chemical recycling. And let's again reframe under our product. So one product is a closed loop mechanical process. It's called thermoplume rerun, and it reclaims footwear textiles. So we take the footwear uppers, we garnet them, and that means mechanically shred, for those not in the know. And we create this unique and beautiful one-of-a-kind insulation. And when I say one-of-a-kind, I'm not being hyperbolic and saying it's amazing, it's one-of-a-kind. I'm saying it's unique because what we get, we don't know, and we frankly don't care within parameters. We work backward from the textile mill that's providing material to the shoe manufacturer. So the shoe manufacturer cuts and separates their uppers. So and you're amazing. You take the upper material, you take the waste, and you garnet that, blend that in with our insulation. So let me work backward from the insulation. It's 100% recycled content, with 30% of it coming from that garneted upper shreds. The other 70% is blended with our own materials so that we can maintain quality and control and traceability. But again, working with both the textile mill and the shoe factory, we are able to maintain chain of command and chain of custody through all of those stops back into our own process. It can be red, it can be blue, it can be a rainbow. We don't know what we're going to get. I think it's actually an amazing selling point of the insulation because it's unique, yeah. And it is, as I said before, one of a kind. I think it's an absolute selling point for the fabric, for the insulation, and not a limitation. So that's mechanical. Our second product is called Silver Rerun, and that is a chemical regenerative recycled product. It's what's amazing about anything in the T2T process coming out of chemical, specifically in polyester, is that it's virgin grade. Mm-hmm. So it's a high performance material, it's a high performance insulation. So the fibers that go in are better than our PET fibers that we actually already using, so there's no compromise to the material whatsoever. So again, working backward from the insulation, it too is 100% recycled content. 50% of that recycled content is our PET blends. Mm-hmm. And then the other 50% is 100% T2T. Now, here's where things get interesting. Okay, so I mentioned before that we have over 1,000 brand partners. Walk around, many of you know them, many of you are wearing them now. But they all have their own sustainability departments. They all have their own metrics and standards. They all have their own partnerships and alliances and alignment with these suppliers that we're talking about. So let's say brand X comes to us and says, or let me put it the other way around. We go to brand X and, we know that they've partnered with supplier Y, right? The conversation we have is like, hey, we have this T2T solution. We have this insulation. we know you're already working with supplier Y. We can provide our insulation with your potential partner, and that is that's an amazing and democratic and layered opportunity for us and for the installation provider and for the industry. So, I can't take the time right now to go through all of the various recyclers and all the different brands. You can walk around and see them, the various processes and product differentiations. But what I can say is, from our brand perspective, it's our commitment to service those brands, to provide and incorporate as many, if not all, of the T2T suppliers and recyclers that you see. And that's really, again, where the scalability of this whole thing comes into play, and why it's so important moving forward, because everyone's stars have to align, and we try and get as many to align as possible. But as we've talked through some of the scalability questions and challenges and barriers, I think some things will shake out.
Thank you so much for the insights. And I mean, you already touched based on what I wanted to ask you, what's coming next, because we cannot solve the issue alone. We cannot solve this in isolation. So we have to, and every brand, every recycler, every mill, they need to build their own ecosystem. Because circularity only works if we have built our ecosystem. And what I want to hear from your perspective, because as an ingredient brand, it is so interesting how you create your network. And from textile collection, you already touched based on the footwear industry, which is also kind of a cross industry collaboration. So from the collection to the sorting to the fibers, where do you see PrimaLoft sitting within this network?
Yeah, there are far more suitable people and qualified people to talk about the ecosystem and the logistics and logistics around aggregation, waste, and total sorting and ecosystem framework than me. But from a PrimaLoft perspective, we see ourselves as a facilitator. Right, we're the red thread that's going to connect everyone. So we have to be the connection between the recyclers and the mills and the brands. And using that mechanically recycled product that I was speaking about before, the thermoplume rerun, if not the first question when we show that product is, oh, that's really cool. Can we use our stuff? Can we give you our dead stock? Can we use our materials in incorporation? And obviously the conversation is, yeah, maybe, we'd love to, we want to. It's part of the reason that product exists, is it's like a gateway product to get people to think about this stuff. But there are other conversations, right? Then, okay, well, where is it manufactured? What are the logistics? Where's the localized feedstock coming from? But again, we love to be that red thread, and we want to be. But that leads us to other challenges. So, discussions within, the constraints of transparency, etc. Sorry, I got attacked by a bug. The sound guy's like, oh my God. Sorry.
No worries. Right. So with this bang, we move on to a topic where I maybe can give you some more insights. It's policy and governance. So as Europe is leading the way with its policy to shift to circularity, we're seeing a real acceleration in how regulation is shaping the future of textile design and also of production. So I do not want to get into the details. We have a lot of experts here in the performance days. We have the circularity zone and the sustainability launch, where you have a lot of posters that you can take a picture, where you can share it with your teams to get into the policy. But what we see is, over the next few years, there are multiple frameworks that will fundamentally redefine the way that we work and the way we sell products. Mm-hmm. So from how we source the materials, how we build our products, how we label them, how we use them, and then how we hopefully recycle them. So we have the EU Waste Framework Directive, and also soon the Extended Producer Responsibility. This basically means that brands and retailers are financially responsible what's happening with their products, so that they are collected, sorted, and recycled at the end of the use phase. So this is basically a major operational shift and also a financial invest. Yeah. We also have the EU strategy for sustainable and circular textiles, so which has the vision by 2030 that all textile products placed on the European market should be durable, recyclable, and also repairable, if possible. And yeah, that the unsold goods are not longer be simply destroyed, so that we have to reuse the resources that we already have in the ecosystem. Then we have the upcoming eco design for sustainable. Wait a second.
Hold, please.
It seems that I need to run off.
You've interrupted yourself.
Yes, I'm so sorry. But let's finish here first. So we have the eco design for sustainable product regulation, which is built on an introduction of the product-specific requirements around durability, recyclability, and we have a potential minimum of recycled content. So, and this is where it's going to be interesting. So we're all waiting for the specific percentage of recycled content that we have to use in our products.
Yeah.
And finally, last but not least, we have the digital product passport, which is promoting traceable digital identity. And we have also a lot of technology solution providers here. So if you look at the Tech Hub, and also in the sustainability launch on the other hall, you will see a lot of startups that are giving us a lot of solutions for this topic.
So important.
So, but now coming back to you, Andrea, from PrimaLoft's perspective, how do you see this regulations shaping your roadmap, and also how do you prioritize?
Yeah. Yes. Easy answer. It's massive. It's massively affecting our roadmap and how to affect everything. The laws and policies that you just mentioned are necessities, I think, in moving encouragement first off, and drive, but also it's what needs to be done to protect our planet. So that goes without saying, but we have to build the ecosystem as well and scale. So that said, I'm going to sort of focus on the underlying theme here of governance and transparency as it relates to those frameworks. From my perspective and from the brand's perspective, the biggest speed bump on the roadmap is governance and transparency. So we will get into other challenges later, I think, but for us, the immediate and very real barrier to entry is that governing bodies aren't really up to speed yet. The brands are lacking confidence in the current levels of traceability and transparency. And again, I have these conversations with brands and have all day long, and it has reinforced this perspective. So I would say greenwashing is a huge concern, even outside of the overly litigious America. Brands are scared of the culpability that they are exposing themselves to in any product, not just T2T, but in any product. But they're hesitant to spec and use these materials, and by materials I'm specifically saying outputs of T2T recycling, without clear certifications and transaction certificates, so TCs. So to get sort of technical here, they're, again, back to the wonderful banner in the other room, there are limitations around these certifications, and the T2T suppliers not all can get, in fact, many cannot get GRS certifications. That's Global Recycling Standard yet, because they're still operating on pilot lines. They're not even on production lines yet, so there aren't GRSs off the table. GRS is also a problem for some specific processes. To get super technical here and nerd out a little bit with me, within chemical recycling, there's hydrolysis, pyrolysis, methanolysis, glycolysis, dissolution, gasification. I'm not just saying these things to make myself sound smart. It's because there are different inputs and different outputs. And within glycolysis specifically, the GRS method looks at weight in, weight out.
Yeah.
And the formula doesn't really allow for, a virgin MEG or malonylethylene glycol to stay in that system. So as part of the reactor's closed loop system, if there's a virgin amount in there, it means at the moment the GRS cert can't capture that. So this is perhaps, and this was one of the conversations we were having prior to this presentation, was around like, okay, ISCC plus, they look at things a little differently. Like they take things from a mass balance approach, and can you change the way at looking things by including a virgin quantity in the equation, and kind of use that as a bridge. And I'm not insinuating that that's what should happen. I'm just saying the door is open right now for that to be a possibility, for someone else to come in and be more meaningful perhaps than GRS. Hopefully I'm not offending any GRS folks in the room, but RCS, this is where we currently live. We're really leaning on recycled claim standards for the conversations with our brands. So they're multi-standard TCs that can be issued, meaning mixed materials. That's what the multi-standard means. And there's literally a write-in at the bottom. It's like not even like clear documentation. Yeah. It's like a notation at the end, an asterisk, that it comes from T2T fibers, or there's T2T inclusion. And some brands don't feel that that's strong enough, that that's a detailed enough certification. But that is what we're dealing with right now. And another aspect, and perhaps it's a somewhat unsavory hot take just from me, brands are requesting of us tracer fibers. And this sort of helps them feel assured that they're getting what they say they want. I don't like the idea of tracers. I really don't. I think that introducing potential contaminants in this case is not the right way to go. You're putting in metals like manganese or phosphorus and into a stream that's literally designed to remove, its whole intention is to remove impurities and repurify something. So in addition to adding material specifications and things that we now have to inform the brand and consumers that are in the material, there are material performance characteristics that we also have to mention and manage, and just we're introducing extra materials into the stream. They're superfluous that in recyclability and in circularity we will have to then remove. So again, hot take, I just think that there's a better way, be it blockchain or the digital passports that you were talking about at the very kickoff of this section. Like, I think there's a better way to get after some of this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, this is a lot of barriers and challenges that you just mentioned, and a lot of solutions that are also needed, building infrastructures, being very fragmented as we're in the industry right now. It's our common approach to connect, and then to connect and to scale it up. So let's talk about scale, because the textile industry, as we know, we produce around 92 million tons of textile waste every year. As we all know, this number is nothing new to us. We also know that yet we do not recycle more than 1% of textile waste every year based on Ellen MacArthur Foundation. So we all know these numbers, right? So a lot of the textiles are still downcycled, incinerated, end up in landfill. So how do you think, from your perspective also, how can PrimaLoft help to scale up the solutions? Because you run from a pilot project to a commercial viable product.
No, entirely. I want to be really careful with how I how I phrase this and how I choose my words, because I don't want to make it seem like I'm skirting responsibility or passing the buck forward here. But to meet uh, the demands on T2T from the brands, the suppliers, the T2C suppliers and recyclers, they must themselves scale up first. So, the current pace of building and bringing reactors online simply cannot feed and keep up with the demand that we're seeing and being asked of from our brand partners. That's probably both a really good and really bad problem. I think a slow and steady pace is a good thing, and I think you'll hear that from many people in the industry. But we have to ramp up efficiently and effectively. But there are going to be unmet desires. We're just not going to be able to feed all of the mouths that need to be fed. Off-take agreements are absolutely already part of the conversation, and I think that they're going to be necessary and essential for manufacturers for the foreseeable future. I don't have a line on something that's going to be faster in the meantime. That includes PrimaLoft, but it also includes the brands that we work with. They're saying is the same thing. And I think history is really repeating itself here, though. This is our PET chip 25 years ago. A full-fledged commodity market and an economic model is being built. We are from scratch feeding this industry starting now.
Yeah.
And the logistics around aggregation and feedstocks and the need to equalize and maintain consistency are just pushing the pace. But I think currently, too, the mixture of materials that we're getting, right, pre-consumer, post-consumer, pre-industrial, post-industrial, pre-industrial, made a new one up, post-industrial, that's going to continue to evolve as well, because more recyclers are coming online. There are more reactors coming online. They're being built in logistical and regional areas. So beyond the governance issues that I already mentioned, in specific to the insulation market and in our world, scaling considerations also include the fiber manufacturing and availability. And this is starting to get really a little bit myopic in terms of the details, but it's actually an output conversation. The output of regenerative recycling is a polymer chip. It's a pellet form. And from there, we take the pellets and extrude them into filaments or spin them into yarns. But right now, those offerings are really pretty slim. There's not a lot available, and fiber manufacturers are actually brokering. Fiber manufacturers are barely involved. It's the recyclers and the T2T suppliers are brokering some of these fiber partnerships. So it's making things even more limited, I think. So in order to for us to develop high performance quality insulations, we need to have more options. We can make a 3 denier by whatever staple yarn work, and we did, and we have product. But if you want to make other improved performance benefits, we need to have multiple fiber types. I'm looking at a reporter that I had a conversation with today about this very thing. We need multiple deniers, we need bicomponents, we need conjugates, we need to be able to scale all of the things that feed into the system. And as an output of T2T, the biggest, strongest lions are going to get fed first. So in my mind, PrimaLoft's position on all of this and how we're attacking it is to use our power in this sphere of influence, we'll call it. As you mentioned, we keep asking for these things. We keep pushing for this. And if we keep running our own pilot programs, I think that the value will translate forward, and that's how we're looking at it.
Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for these insights.
Sure.
It is very interesting for us to hear your journey and to also see all of the textile innovators, recyclers. But what we wanted at Performance Days as well is, because we're here now sourcing, right? We're sourcing the fabrics at the fair. We want to also give you all some input on what is the impact of your choice. So if you go to the other side of the hall, if you look at the focus topic, if you see about all these sustainability takeaways that you can read at the fair, it is you as designers, fabric managers who are sourcing the materials. It's your decision. You have such an impact on what kind of materials do you select, and we wanted to give you also some do's and don'ts to make your everyday life easier. So really do think of the disassembly, do think of the recyclability, don't mix fiber blends that cannot be recycled, be careful with finishings, with coatings that blocks recycling. So all of these do's and don'ts that help also to have the input for further recycling content. So my last question, and then I think we wrap up. We're running out of time.
Of course.
So what excites you most about the future? It can be, what's your perspective, or what is most exciting in the PrimaLoft universe?
Oh gosh, I'll try and keep it short and sweet. Then I think we are committed to advancing monomaterial garment options, right? Regardless of the polymer, I should say, to simplify recycling, to truly support a circular model, and specifically the circular models for our brands and partners. And T2T is obviously embedded in that promise. So it's just providing solutions. Mm-hmm. And again, going back to the brands that we're talking with every day, and all of, again, 1,200 of them, we want to make ourselves as available as possible to connect to those mills and partners. So we want to be a conduit to build this industry, build this economic model, and move things forward. So I'm excited to see if we can do just that, because this is the future. It's why it's the theme for the show. So I said I would keep it simple, and I rambled. That's it.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here with us, and thank you for the presentation and all the insights.
Happy to. Thank you so much.
More importantly, can we show our appreciation? But we're not going to let them off stage yet. Someone's put in a Slido question, so straight to the anonymous. Will textile-to-textile products perform as good as the original products? Over to you, Andrea.
It depends on the product. It depends on how you're utilizing it, and where you're and how you're employing it into the product. Again, using our installation, because I can stand up here and talk about anything, but I'm going to stand up here and talk about PrimaLoft. The mechanically recycled product is a different textile to textile solution. So garnetting something, tearing it up, shredding it up, if you were to melt it down, that is reprocessing the material in a different way. It is not giving you virgin grade output. And it continues, as you continue to recycle it, to degrade over time. That's okay, depending on what you're putting it into. So I'm not saying that to in any way make our loose fill product subpar. I'm saying that it needs to be blended in and carried by other supporting materials. So it's still the right thing to do. It's absolutely great product. It's great insulation. Is it the same as the textile to textile chemical output? No, that's virgin grade. That is a superior product. That is a superior output to even rPET. So a recycled polyethylene terephthalate, which is kind of ubiquitous in insulation, you're getting a virgin grade quality of that material, that polymer, and it does perform slightly better at that level. So the answer is it depends. It depends on how you put it in, how you load it, what process. We skimmed over all those processes. Anna's far more qualified to speak to it than I am, but from a product level, it really depends on what you're doing with things. So that's overarching.
The simple takeaway: put quality in, you get quality out.
Always.
Okay. And the other question is totally the other field, which is, if you had a magic wand, what is the hurdle that is stopping progress?
Oh gosh.
What's the most annoying thing that comes across your desk, in other words? So appealing to something very unlogic here.
Yeah, I think it's some of the barriers and challenges that we actually didn't really have the time to get into, but this is commoditization of textile waste. When I say an economic model being built and an industry being built around this, like there are some T2T recyclers that are making alliances with waste management companies to ensure and secure their feedstocks up front. And that's probably a really smart way to do it, because you're ensuring your feedstock and you're solving for part of the problem in scalability of things. That has nothing to do with me. If I'm holding the magic wand, I might be inclined to solve one of my problems. But if I'm trying to solve a problem for the scaling and the progress of this entire industry, I would sort of try and wave it at a number of different things in terms of the logistics and the aggregation and the scale up. I mean, we didn't even get to talk about it, but like sorting and detrimming and how you get all the textile back is a massive undertaking. And there's, again, back to your banner in the other room, there's an amazing like nerd detail hidden in there about near infrared scanning. So talking about a magic wand, that's a magic wand. You basically wave this thing at the materials, and you collect the material characteristics and performance and chemical composition based on wavelength, and you build a database of all of this material, and then you can very simply, very accurately, relatively inexpensively put that on a conveyor belt and very quickly sort and sift through material. That is a magic wand. We just need to use it and utilize it. So,
brilliant. I'm looking around for questions, and I'm not seeing any volunteers. And I know that there were people in the audience who know far more about recycling than me. Don't I, Adam? So, am I seeing any volunteers?
We've got one up front.
We've got one. Oh, Sophie. If you don't know Sophie, technical editor at World Sports Activewear, she knows more than us.
Not quite sure. I need to ask a few questions
Okay.
before I get there. You mentioned at some point the issue of an ecosystem. And so I'm thinking, if you're going to set up a recycling ecosystem, would you want to have one in different areas of the world? One in the US, one in Europe, one in Asia? Is that what you're looking at?
Let me clarify. When I said set up an ecosystem, I'm speaking on behalf of the industry. I don't think that PrimaLoft is in the position at the moment to set up that ecosystem ourselves. But yes, I would have it regionally. Absolutely. I think that part of, this is my opinion, I'd love to hear what you think, but I think that if we're doing it the correct way, it's eliminating as much travel and logistical interference as possible. Also, you can't ship waste right now. So this is an underlying conversation that everybody gets tripped up in when it comes to these other conversations around take-back programs and dead stock. It's what is it considered? Is it considered waste or is it not? And then the laws and policies around that affect things. Do you have a position on that?
I mean, we have reduction facilities all over the world. We need recycling facilities all over the world. It really depends on where we manufacture. So I think it definitely makes sense to have all the ecosystems around the world.
Yeah, and again, partnering with people partnering with companies and takebacks and aggregation in order to make that work.
When you spoke of the mechanical recycling for the shoe uppers, that's with specific suppliers, though, right?
Mechanical?
The mechanical.
Yeah, the mechanical recycling is with specific suppliers, but yes, we partnered with the mill and we partnered with the shoe factory because, again, that was about controlling the, apologies. It's about controlling the. I'm spacing on the word. I'm sorry, but being able to track and TC everything. The way it's set up is so that you could plug in other things. I called it a gateway process. The intention there is so that, okay, this factory is located near our manufacturing factory for the insulation is located very nearby to the mill, very nearby to the shoe factory. So everything is all very centrally located. And if you could do that everywhere, that'd be ideal. But you might not be able to do that everywhere. And again, if we're talking about taking garments back from brands, they are all over the world. It depends on where the brands are. So I think it's you have to work backward in a lot of cases in order to solve these problems, which is why it's not such an easy conversation. I'll be transparent. There are tons of brands that are like, "Hey, we have stuff. Can you do it?" And it's like, "Well, we can," but when we start having the conversation, it's like, it's less attractive, and that's too bad because it is an attractive proposition.
Charles appears on stage and conversation stops. More importantly, we need to turn over sessions. But can we show our appreciation for these two on stage?